Welcome to Sex and the Solo Girl. Join your host, her inner circle, and expert guests weekly for chats about dating, secure attachment, the solo lifestyle, doing relationships differently, and of course, sex. And here's your host, Janice Formichella.
Yay, another episode of Dating Q&A with Brian and Janice. We are here to help. Welcome, Brian. Welcome back,
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's great to be here.
Yes. You might be the person I've done the most episodes with. I need to go and count, and we should do, some social media around our partnership, perhaps. If you have a dating query, we are going to now be collecting them from the audience. So go over to Instagram. That's probably the easiest way to reach me quickly, and just send me your question, where we will answer probably every single one, and I will answer every single DM that I get. And if you are enjoying this series and you want to give me some more support, go and click on my Patreon in the show notes. I have some fun stuff going on over there. But we're not here just to talk about me. We are here to help. So, Brian, first of all, how are you? And then which question do you want to do first?
I am doing great. It's so fun to be here, and I'm excited to talk about all of these great dating questions and relationship questions. I think today I want to start with one that really spoke to me. So as a reminder, if you missed the previous episodes, Dating Q&A, I pulled some different topics that I thought would be interesting for your audience, Janice, from Reddit, from the different dating and relationship subreddits. And this question in particular, I thought was really good because I think it kind of speaks to you, Janice, and your audience, and like, what are relationships, especially in today's society? So I think we could start from there.
Let's do it. Okay, Brian, it's a little long. Do you want to read the whole thing, or do you want to switch off?
I can read the whole thing.
Okay, it's a good question. I appreciate this person's reflection on society and on themselves. But yeah, everyone pay attention. This person has a lot to say. Go ahead, Brian.
If relationships are the foundation of society, what happens to those who don't fit into them? So I'm 18. This is the person writing the question. I'm 18, and I've come to realize that the entire structure of life's society, the economy, even the most basic human motivations are built around relationships. Not just any relationships, but specifically romantic and sexual ones. I see it everywhere. Mortgages are designed for two incomes. Rent is structured for couples. Even the way people justify waking up and going to work is often tied to a partner or the pursuit of one. The entire foundation of what gives people purpose is rooted in relationships. Without that, most people would be lost. But here's where I don't fit in. I have no interest in relationships like that. I understand beauty. I have natural instincts, but they don't drive me. The thought of sex, even kissing, feels disgusting to me. My brain is stronger than my instincts, and because of that, I see relationships differently from how most people do. I watch people around me settle into these fake surface-level connections where they trade real intimacy for convenience. They claim to care about each other, but it's all built on physical attraction and societal expectation, not deep emotional connection. They think they're being mature by sacrificing what they actually want for the sake of a relationship, but to me, that's the opposite of maturity. Intimacy was never about sex. It was about truly understanding someone, about lying in bed at night, talking for hours, feeling connected in a way that isn't just physical. I wake up every morning questioning everything. I see patterns where others see normality, and I can't just accept things because that's how they are. But rejecting it doesn't give me anything in return. It doesn't hand me a new purpose, an alternative system to live by. It just leaves me here staring at a world that wasn't designed for people like me, wondering if there's anything left for me to build instead of just watching from the outside. Maybe that's the price of seeing things too clearly, or maybe it's just the beginning of something else, but I don't know what that something else is, and I'm starting to wonder if anyone does. A lot to unpack here.
Definitely a lot. And I really wish I could reach this person directly, because there is a whole different way of living and doing things that I do not think that they are aware of clearly or tapped into clearly. So I will say, first of all, for anyone listening, that yes, society puts pressure on us to be in relationships because that is the default. That's how we've been doing things for a long time. And yes, there are structures that are set up for married couples, including taxes, traveling, rent, all of these things. So, I mean, I think it's like 40% more expensive or something to be single. And there is a lot of awareness being raised right now about singleism. And that is that we do get not as many benefits, and people see single people as not fully, living or just haven't gotten to marriage yet. And it's a very real thing. However, there are lots of resources and communities and people who are happily living single. And so I wanted to give some of those. I was writing these down as you were talking. First of all, pay attention to Sex and the Solo Girl, because I do content around dating and relationships and communication, but also a lot on enjoying the single life. I am a member of the Solo community, which is an online community. You can learn more about us at petermcgraw.com. He's kind of he's one of the thought leaders for sure when it comes to singleism and the solo life. He has a book called Solo: Building a Remarkable Life on Your Own, which I'm holding up right here. And he also has a podcast called Solo: The Single Person's Guide to a Remarkable Life. So there are actually, and you can see how common it is and how fun it can be, and that there is nothing wrong with you. And there's alternatives to coupledom. And I also wanted to suggest, this person says that they have no interest in sex or even kissing. Physical intimacy is not something that interests them. There's even communities for that. The ACE community is very, very active and large, and that's people who identify as asexual, meaning that they have no interest or little interest in sex with other people. So please, you can just Google ACE community and you'll find a lot of people like you. And since you're on Reddit, I would assume at least that there's a robust community a robust ACE community on Reddit. So that was a lot. I'll put all of these resources in the show notes. Brian, I'll hand it back over to you.
Yeah, those are some great points. And a couple of things stood out to me. One of them being, it feels like this person is more on the asexual spectrum. And or the other thing that stood out to me is this person is 18, just coming into maturity and figuring out that, like a lot of, I think it's Gen Alpha, might be Gen Z, but I think Gen Alpha, kind of figuring out sexuality, gender, what that means in sort of the disillusionment of capitalism, sort of not living up to the previous promises of study hard, go to college, and you'll get a good job and you'll have an easy life. I think that's sort of no longer the case for a lot of people. A lot of people are struggling. A lot of people are questioning kind of the gender constructs, the gender binary of this is what it is to be a man. This is what being a woman is. And so there are a lot of people who just don't really fit into the very strict rules and guidelines that society and religion have built up. So I think that's another aspect of Gen Alpha, especially. We see more kids questioning that or becoming bisexual or non-binary. So I think this is kind of the time. Being 18 is the time to explore and to question things. So I think this is all very natural. But I do come back to the asexual aspect. And this person said intimacy is about lying in bed at night, talking for hours and feeling connected. So I think that can be asexuality, that can be friendships and building deep friendships. And maybe it will never come, but maybe it just hasn't come yet, whereas this person has felt attracted to or kind of felt like there is somebody they would want to do more than just kind of talk and connect to. So I think the whole world is your oyster. The whole world is ahead of you at 18. This person is 18, may see all of their friends around them coupling up, but there are people at 25, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 who are single. Janice, you and I have done episodes on this or the previous podcast about decentering men for women.
Oh yeah,
but like decentering relationships. There are people who focus on their career during their 20s and then in their 30s come back to focusing on finding a partner, because now that they have kind of established their career and more financially stable, they're not dependent on, especially women aren't dependent on a man financially supporting them and then being a stay-at-home parent just to take care of children. It's more egalitarian. So I think there's a lot of ways to approach life. And I know that at 18, everything can seem black or white, or like everything is amazing or everything sucks, and kind of that binary. But I think there's lots of ways to explore life and go through life without having to conform to whatever your parents may think or whatever.
Before we move on, I will also say that a lot of this too has to do with mindset. And this is not how things are. This person has, I think, gotten into a negative loop with their mindset. And also, this is a perfect example of a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
Because you are telling yourself these things over and over again, and you are seeing them. When in reality, I mean, seriously, there's depictions of single people all over. Like I said, there's movements. You probably know more single people than you think you do. If you can shift your mindset, I think, and be open to seeing that there are different ways of doing things, and that it's even better to be single in some cases, you'll find your single journey, I think, easier.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think whether this person goes off to college or moves to the city or starts to trek out into the world at 18, I think the world is very small when you're 18. You're just coming out of high school and you know like 100 people or 500 people at your high school. But you realize, and you may think, there's nobody else out there like me who thinks like me. With the internet, we're a lot more connected and it's easier to find people. But once you physically meet somebody who has similar opinions or may have the same sort of asexual or whatever it is kind of attraction style or just similar lifestyle and whatever tastes and opinions and outlooks, I think that broadens your world to realize I'm not alone. There are other people who think like me and who have the same beliefs as I do. And I think that is very reassuring, and the world opens up so much.
Okay, we talked a lot about that. I'm on fire. I'll read the next question. This is a shorter one. Question number 2. Why are women more attracted to married men? When I was single, it seemed it was harder to find a good woman. Now that I'm married, I get hit on all the time. Why? Since I read it, I'll let you go to it first. I think we've, again, got a matter of mindset here. What's up, Brian? What do you think about this bloke's question?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of ways to dissect this.
Yeah.
I'll just start off with, I think that men a lot of times don't understand women flirting with them or hitting on them. So sometimes I wonder, is that person hitting on you? Do you think they're hitting on you, or are they just being friendly? And I wonder if also part of it is that men who are attached or have a wedding ring or something, if they can seem more safe by having that ring, and or are they less self-conscious or less sort of in a mode of being on the hunt, so to speak, for attractive women when they're single, and that those guards go down, they're more confident / comfortable / approachable when they're not in the mode of how do I say something that's going to be funny or witty to try and approach this person. When you're just kind of in a natural state of being friendly because they're another person and you're just there and you have a quick conversation, it can come off as easier and more effortless. So those were the things that first struck me when I saw this question is, are they actually hitting on you, or is it just they're being friendly? And if they are just being friendly, is it because you are yourself kind of in a better place to be friendly and approachable and all that?
Yep. Thank you. I will say, yes, as far as the flirting thing goes, it is hard to be a woman. It's hard to be a single woman out there. And especially because sometimes you do get the feeling that no men actually want to be just your friend. And I've experienced that a lot, to the point that I've found myself even angry, very frustrated at that. And so I do definitely think that, yes, somebody who's married might seem safer to build a friendship with. And if maybe you weren't experienced this level of friendliness when you were single, that it could be that women are hoping to build a friendship with you, or just simply having a fun conversation because, like I said, you feel safer. I personally am close friends, actually, with a handful of married men, and not even friends with their wives, to be honest. And I will say 100%, when I met a few of these men, I felt like we clicked. I felt that I wanted to build a friendship, and I definitely navigated it in a much different way than I would have if they were single. And so, yeah, that might be a big part of it. I do think that some married men might come off more confident, and that too is attractive. I definitely want to address the what he said about it was harder finding a good woman. Look, that's just not true. There's lots of good men out there. There's lots of good women out there. Again, that's maybe about your mindset. I'm not sure what was happening when you were single, and frankly offensive as a woman.
I took that part of his question as I found like he found it hard to talk to women in public when he was single, but now that he's married, it's easier to talk to people. So I took that as maybe because there's less pressure on him to kind of approach and be the one to start a conversation and try and hit on somebody, get their number. Now conversations can just be about whatever. And so it's easier to talk to people. I've also heard from a lot of women online or kind of talking in person that they are sometimes wary of talking to men in public because not all men, but a lot of men will misconstrue any sort of friendliness or conversation as, oh, she's hitting on me. I'm going to have to kind of escalate this and pursue her or get her number or something. And they don't want to deal with all of that. So it's easier to avoid men. But if somebody's married or they're very clearly in a relationship with a woman right there, then it's easier to talk to because there's not the projection of, is this person hitting on me? And what does that mean for our interaction? They can just be treated as a human being.
Yeah, I'm nodding my head like crazy because also I can just relate so much. So thank you for putting this question out there. And also, I hope that your marriage is happy and that you're in a great relationship. Brian, let's do one more. This is shall we say, triggering one for me because I'm very squirmish about certain things, hygiene being one of them. But I also think it's important to address because I've heard this coming up a lot lately. Brian, I'll let you read it because I don't want to start gagging in the middle.
Okay. So there's the question, and then the person came back with an update because there's more information about the situation.
Go on.
All right. Yeah, so the question is, how do I tell someone their dental hygiene is a turnoff? I went on a date with a guy. It went well, and he was very sweet, perfect gentleman. But whenever I got close to him as he was talking, I noticed that his breath smelled pretty bad, like he didn't brush at all that morning. I could also see that his teeth didn't look very clean. A yellow tint is totally normal, but this was more than a tint. Are you okay over there, Janice?
No, seriously, this is making like my gag reflexes activate. But like I said, that's important to address. So I'm going to try and just be mature and not let myself get worked up. Go on.
A yellow tint is totally normal, but this was more than a tint, and there seemed to be plaque buildup. Dental hygiene is very important to me. I've invested a lot into my teeth, and I recently got braces. I don't think I can use the "would you like a piece of gum" excuse because I'm still getting used to braces and can't even chew gum myself at this point. But I don't want to offer him a temporary solution. I want to tell him in the nicest way possible that this is the reason I don't want to see him again. It's just difficult for me to have these talks because I feel like it's mean and it's hard for me to be rude to people who have been kind to me. Any and all advice is appreciated. Thank you in advance. And so a certain time later, this person came back with an update for everybody who had responded.
That
So
was
update.
a lot, I have to say. Like, wow.
He
All
had
right,
been-
so give us the update. What happened with
Update.
this situation?
He had been asking me to see him again today. So I told him there was something I wanted to tell him. I just didn't want to hurt his feelings. And I just came out and said, I noticed his dental hygiene wasn't great, and this would be a deal breaker for me. He said I should have communicated this sooner because he has a dentist appointment for deep cleaning next week. I told him I would be willing to postpone our date until after then, but he started going on a tangent about how he showers often and wears cologne and brushes and flosses, etc. It seemed like he's trying to prove his cleanliness to me, even though I insisted it's common for people to practice other parts of hygiene but neglect their teeth. But he doesn't seem to be taking it very well, so I'm just going to leave it here.
Okay. I guess two things. First of all, as far as what should I do, I just want to say it is perfectly fine to have absolute deal breakers. Something like this would just be completely, this person is out. If this was something that came up, especially in a first date, this is a complete clash of values with me. And seriously, if this was your takeaway from the first date, I would be running for the hills. I don't even think this was worth a conversation. I don't know how she thought that this was going to go, but I would have absolutely just walked away. And I know I said I had a short and sweet answer for this, and that is it. And this is a bit personal, but I will also say that I really want men to listen to this, because I actually had an experience very similar. Ooh, and that is I dated someone, the guy I broke up with 2 years ago. And after a short time of dating, I realized, or I came to realize that he had horrendous hygiene. And, you know, like the first couple of times I noticed him not showering, I'm thinking, there must be a reason or this or that. But then it was just, I just came to realize that this is just how he lived. And no amount of hints from me would do anything. I was going through a really hard time in my life. And so I didn't want to go through a breakup. And I talked to a couple of my girlfriends about this, and I told them just what was going on. And they both said, yeah, it would be a deal breaker for them. And I truly wish that I would have ended it. I don't feel like I would have need to tell him. Again, our lifestyles clashed. Somebody who doesn't shower is not somebody I want to be with. I want to say that after this happened, I went online to see if any other women had this experience. I found more stories than I wanted to read about almost my exact situation. And I've now had the chance to speak with several girlfriends about this. I became more comfortable speaking about my experience. And I have had a lot of friends tell me the exact same thing about male partners. Dudes out there listening, please pay attention to this. Shower more often than you think to. Keep overly on top of this, because it is really troubling to date somebody and discover this about them. Also, it's just gross. And I'll put it to you, Ryan.
Yeah, I think you bring up some really great points. I want to separate. I want to separate kind of what you're talking about versus the ick, which I think sometimes people can get kind of petty, like, oh, I saw him run, or I saw him bend over to tie his shoe, or some like the way he holds his fork. I think there are some things where people can get very focused on the very small things and write off somebody who might be great because of some weird thing, especially when a guy does something that's not masculine. Oh, the way I saw him run, and that wasn't masculine. It kind of broke down my idea of what a man should be, because they do, or acts silly, kind of does a silly thing. I think there can be things that are too far, especially with the ick, versus what you're talking about here, where it's my values, my core values, and my lifestyle is like health and dental health and hygiene, and giving somebody kind of at least seeing it through to, okay, what is this? Is it just somebody who has bad breath today because they they had lunch and haven't brushed their teeth after lunch or something? Or is it a bunch of stuff because in their mouth because they don't take care of their dental hygiene? Sorry to keep roasting you out. But I mean, I think people should give it enough of a chance to see, okay, investigate, what is this? Is this a red flag or a deal breaker? So going back to what we've talked about a lot on your podcast before, here's my list of deal breakers. Here's my nice to haves. Here's my not a big deal, but preferences, because some people can change. Oh, this is something that kind of bothers you. That's something that can be learned. That's something can be changed. But like a core belief or value or way somebody lives is a lot harder to change. And so that can be on your deal breaker list. So I think it's good. And that's also why I think dating around, meeting new people is a good way to help narrow down your list. Okay, what are my deal breakers? Oh, this thing that I thought was a deal breaker wasn't necessarily. I don't like country music, and I thought that was a deal breaker, but now I'm with somebody and 6 months in, I realize they like country music, and that's not a big deal. Versus, oh, I never knew I thought this thing was gross or was not for me until I met somebody who did this thing or had this kind of value or treated me a certain way and made me feel a certain way. Now I know, okay, that's on my list for deal breaker. So I think the dating process is good for gathering all of that information about what you want, what you don't want, and be able to know and screen people, weed people out a lot earlier in the process as you know more about yourself and what you are comfortable with.
And now I think that this person sees that this is very, very important. And I think it is. I don't know how a relationship starting out with this type of problem and conversation could possibly blossom into something functional or satisfying. So, and that's why I think, it's nice to have conversations about things. Having a conversation about this, though, I think would be very hard to do. And for me, just leave. And for me, it is significant. I remember when I told my friend Kelsey, and I had been keeping this inside about this man's hygiene. But I was very troubled by it and not knowing what to do. And like I said, really just not mentally prepared to go through the drama of a breakup. And so I finally told one of my friends one day, I need to tell somebody this. And I said, he doesn't shower, like he'll go days. And I'm like, I'm getting so grossed out. I don't know what to do. And she just paused and she goes, that's really significant. I was like, thank you. And I was thinking, how to break up. And then and also I wanted to say this. So it was going on. And like I said, I had made hints. I would even try to get him to shower with me. And then like I said, I wasn't directly addressing it. I don't know how you would. And the resentment in me because of not feeling I could bring it up and also just seeing how that he lived this way and just kind of getting more grossed out by it over time, the resentment built up in me. And I really started just like not liking him, being irritated all the time. And this was one of the primary reasons is maybe lack of respect or just something that was really weighing on me. And so I will say, maybe end things because it's going to get harder to ignore and overlook.
Yeah. I think that's why if you're able to, it's good to see if it's a pattern or just a one time. Like if you go on a first date with somebody, they have bad breath. Maybe they just had bad breath that day. If they had bad breath for all 5 of the 5 dates you go on, maybe that's a bigger pattern. If they didn't shower that day for that first date, that's one thing. But if they haven't showered in a week for like all of the dates you go on, that's a pattern. So if it's kind of lower on the list, see if it's a pattern or if it's just a one-off, because kind of I flip it around the other way. Like what if I had show up to a first date and it was warm that day and I was wearing a jacket and I got a little sweaty under the armpits and maybe I had a little bit of, that's something I'm sometimes self-conscious of. And so what if I had a really great date, but because it was a little bit warmer that day and I had an outfit that wasn't as breathable. and then I was written off or kind of not given a second date because of just kind of circumstances. That's one thing versus if I just didn't take care of my hygiene or if whatever sort of values or priorities were different. And then that was a pattern that was just something that turned into not being compatible. That's very different. So
I mean,
I think
look, if you're not going to be at your absolute best hygiene on a first date.
Yeah.
Okay. That's just me. I think we've talked about this enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone out there, shower, brush your teeth more than you think you need to. All right. Brian, thank you for your input. We've got today somebody who's single thinks there's something wrong with them because they're not interested in a relationship. We had why are women more attracted to married men, and problematic hygiene. This was great. Everybody, do you have a dating query or quandary that you want us to cover on the show? You can remain anonymous. If you go over to Instagram, you can DM me instantly. I will answer, and we'll answer your question on the show. Please, please, please. And Brian, thank you again.
Thank you so much. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, this was fun. Everybody, keep your eyes on this space. We'll be back with another edition of Dating Q&A with Brian and Janice sometime soon. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Sex and the Solo Girl with Janice Formichella, the podcast for those who want to add more flavor to their relationships with themselves and others. If you liked today's episode, make sure to head over to Instagram and let her know. See you next week.